What up? What up? What up? What up? Happy Monday. Welcome to the Grit and Grind Show brought to you by the Off the Bench Podcast Network. And today is a good one. It's a great way to start the week. We've got Tom Sroka. He is not only a United Grid League champion from the Atlanta Wild, he's the owner of the Strength Agenda. He's a Highlands Game Pro. He's a strongman. He's a wrestler. He's a wrestling fan. He is a guy that's one of my kind of guys. So before we talk to Tom and get his story and talk all things grid, I got to plug the sponsors. Got to pay the bills around this place. The Off the Bench Podcast Network's Grit and Grind Show is brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook helps you get the job done. Shout out to all the Chinook ambassadors. College baseball season just got underway this weekend. And what a showing by the Off the Bench crew. Our players, our guests, they went out and dominated. So shout out to them. We'll have a college baseball update show later today, so you'll be able to get the specifics on who did what and what teams are where. You'll get the Off the Bench top 25 newest week 2 rankings. You'll get that. We'll talk about upcoming matchups. Also, Memphis City Designs. Get your brands, gear, and logos on everything from shoes to underoos. Relief Chiropractic, go see Dr. Vic Robinson. He's got the magic hands. He's rejuvenating people. He's adding years to their life. And finally, Old Dominick Distillery. Experience 100 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominick's got you covered. Stop in a day for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. And with that, we got to move on to the interview. Let's bring him onto the stage. Tom Sroka. Tom, what up? What up?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm great, man. And, one of the things that I enjoy is when you get a chance to meet fellow wrestling fans.
Yes.
And it's, off air, we talked about this, and I was like, we can't waste this. This is good content. We got to bring it onto the show. We swapped some stories. We talked about the belts. You've got your famous belt. It's just one of those things, and I mentioned it to you. It is very hard to explain wrestling to non-wrestling fans, especially as an adult. But I will ask you this: of all the wrestlers that have come and gone and that are still there, who are a couple that you're like, man, those are my go-to guys?
Oh man, so I'm a big anti-hero person. And in wrestling, there's like Stone Cold Steve Austin is the ultimate like anti-hero. But I also just always like the heels. I like the underdog kind of heels. So Roddy Piper, old school wise, has always been one of my favorites. I feel like I'm good with my smack talk. I grew up. I got 3 brothers. I'm the smallest in my family and stuff like that. So like I got to use my gifts where I can. And so talking smack has always been a thing that I'm pretty good at. And I can hurt some feelings pretty easily with it too. And so Roddy Piper as a kid, like my dad we used to watch all the WrestleManias and the pay-per-views and stuff. And I used to just love anytime Roddy Piper was on. He would just had the gift of gab. I absolutely loved him. Currently, 2 of my favorites, CM Punk is probably that middle of the road guy. Love CM Punk. And then Kevin Owens is another guy. Kevin Owens has kind of started to move into that like Stone Cold type role in terms of like the anti-hero where like he's just going to do what he wants kind of a thing. I always just gravitated towards those types of characters and stuff. So, but like my all-time ultimate favorite is Roddy Piper. Like I just like what hit my favorite quote is, just when you have all the answers, I'm going to change all the questions. And I like I said, he just had some zingers that I love here. The biggest like travesty in wrestling, in my opinion, is that he never got a chance to get a good run with the title.
Yeah, it's a shame, but in that time there were so many like it was just so new and like it was about attractions, and he was a regular guy and he wasn't overly big, but he like his thing was he could talk and he could be the good guy and say what you wanted him to say, or he could definitely make you turn on him very quickly. I feel you. CM Punk is right there. One of my favorites. Kevin Owens, man, I love before Chris Jericho left. I loved the feud that him and Chris Jericho had. I'm a big Jericho fan. I like him a lot. Kevin Owens, he was in this like this spot where there wasn't a whole lot that he could do, and now I think they're trying to find a groove with him, which will be nice. But last thing on wrestling is John Cena making this little farewell tour. What's your thought on John Cena?
I mean, I like John Cena. I was a big John Cena fan, in his heyday and stuff like that. So I'll be honest, like John Cena kind of brought me back to wrestling. So everybody's got their periods where they're not involved in stuff and things. So like I watched it all through high school. And then when I went off to college, like I just didn't have the time to watch Monday night. And I was also like, I was in middle school and grade school during the Monday Night Wars. So it was like Team WCW, Team, WWE, WWF, whatever you refer to it as. And I like DX and NWO, like those two factions were awesome and stuff. And so like during college, I really didn't pay much attention to it. And then as I, got into adulthood and working and stuff like that. And then, excuse me, John Cena started to be like a mainstay and stuff like that. And the thing that actually got me turned on to him was Mark Bell, because he's from like that California area. He knows Mark Bell and all those guys from down at Super Training and stuff, started posting videos of him lifting. And like he did the Olympic lifts. He squatted heavy, he deadlifted heavy. Like he was all about like the functional barbell movements and stuff like that. So I started paying attention to this guy. And then when I found out he was a WWE wrestler, I was like, oh man, maybe like, because I felt like the WWE after the Monday Night Wars was over got real hokey. And I feel like he kind of brought a little bit of like realism back to it, a little bit of aggression, a little bit of, edge. And so I just started paying attention again to wrestling because of John Cena. So I'm really glad that he's going to get to do kind of like a Derek Jeter style, like farewell tour. I just hope he doesn't bury a lot. Like WWE's on a hot streak right now. They've got a lot of good talent and stuff like that. And I hope a lot of that doesn't get lost in the shuffle of this tour. Like I hope they do right by him. And I think they will. So like, I'm kind of, it's nostalgic for me to kind of see another one of the guys that like I watched for so long, kind of hanging it up for good. I just hope he doesn't pull, a Ric Flair, a Mick Foley, whatever. And like, once he's done, he's done. I don't really like seeing like it's kind of sad to see some of these guys have to come back for money and not be in the shape that you remember them in or in the prime that you remember them in, and they just look like shells of themselves. So I really just hope that he's able to walk away from this when all is said and done and just kind of end it on his terms.
Yeah, that's the thing with John Cena. He is so athletic. He's just gifted. He's a specimen, and when he's 70, he's not going to look like the 70-year-olds that we see getting back in that ring. He's going to look a little different, and he's, probably be able to move a little bit different. But you're right. I don't want to see a John Cena at 70 getting in there. Not that I think he'll have to at that point, but, just for nostalgic purposes or just to sell a ticket. I will say he does a good job of losing a lot and putting guys over. So I don't think he'll go out and like bury a bunch of guys. I do think it's important that WWE, I feel like they want to put the title on him again briefly.
Yeah, I think they'll at least put the word. Like I think him and Jey Uso could have a good program. So I feel like they're going to probably do like a SummerSlam type program for him and give him a run and then let him run. Like the only thing I wish, like his WrestleMania opponent's got to be somebody like Randy Orton. Like I don't want him to put over somebody that like is going to be gone in a few years. I want him to have like a classic with a tried and true talent. So somebody like Roman or Seth or Randy or even Brock, like it's gotta be somebody that is like a bona fide star and future Hall of Famer that I think his last WrestleMania match has to be with.
I think a good storytelling move would be CM Punk just to kind of end it.
Yeah.
Because the last time we saw them in a ring together, it Punk
one of my favorite matches is that Money in the Bank title for title with him and Punk. Like that's probably one of my all-time favorite matches. The only one that I think is better than that is the very first ladder match with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental title.
That's money. I mean, we could talk about this all day, Tom, but the reality is
we're here for grid, baby.
Well, and I got to ask first though, because we're a baseball podcast too. You got the White Sox hat on. Big fan of the Sox?
Unfortunately, yeah. I was born and raised in the south side of Chicago, and you don't root for those people on the north side.
what are the Sox? They got to do something. They
They,
because last year was not. I don't understand how you can go from just as quick as they did from being as hot as they were to being as bad as they were.
I mean, it's one of those situations where it's the owner at the end of it's 100% Jerry Reinsdorf. He's got to sell the team. I mean, but if you look at Chicago sports, like a lot of people don't know he also owns the Bulls, and the Bulls have been just as bad. And like he's there holding the teams for ransom essentially. He's just there for a paycheck. Like he does not actually care about a winning franchise or anything like that. And he's pretty much gotten rid of everybody that secured a win. Like when Ken Williams was the GM, like he made moves, and I honestly thought we were back in 2019 when we made all of those moves. We brought in, all those big guns, those big hitters and stuff like that. Like I thought the Southside Hitmen were back, and then they go and hire Tony. Like, well, first off, Renteria was a terrible manager, and the fact that at the end of the 2020 season he didn't know we were in a division race. Like that guy had to go. But then you've got Joe Madden sitting there, who had just taken the Cubs to their first World Series in over 100 years. He's sitting there waiting for a job, and you bring back Tony La Russa of all people. It's like, come on, man. Like Sox fans have been out for a while. We're loyal to the team, and that's about it. I will say this: like last year was rough. Worst record ever in baseball. But I always try to look at things with like a silver lining, positive outlook and stuff like that. We've got a ton of young talent, both in our farm system, on the team. And like, I watch all the training, the spring training clips and stuff like that. They've got a lot of good energy. So like, if we get like a 500 season, I'll be a happy camper. I just want to see I want to see a cohesive team. Like last year, that team played for themselves individually. They did not play for the White Sox. And that's been the issue since I think about since 2022, that's when the team started to fall apart, and going into 2023, like they all been playing for themselves and they weren't playing as a team. And so I'm hoping Venable can kind of get them all on the same page. And like I said, I don't need them to be winning the pennant or anything like that. I just want a team that's out there giving a good effort, playing for the guy next to them. And like, I'll be happy with a 500 season.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, when you look at the Central, you got the Guardians. Yeah, it's not this league that you look at and you go, oh shit, we're gonna have to win 100 games to even win the division. I mean,
it's not the NL West.
Yeah, Cleveland won 92, and I mean they played very well, very good team, but like it's not scary and out of this world to think that a couple changes could make you, put you right there in the race. And that's being a Cardinals fan. Like we've done zero in the off season to solidify anything other than we're in the middle of a rebuild, and the ownership doesn't want to come out and say it, but that's really what it is. I mean, they're not, they got, big time contracts that they're wanting to get rid of and free up room, but they're not wanting to do anything with the money that they're freeing up. So hey,
that's exactly like the White Sox have like one of the higher pay, or not one of the, they have one of the, I know they don't do caps or whatever, but like in terms of a surplus for contract, like fun fact about it, the White Sox have never signed anybody to $100 million deal ever. With like back in, I think it was 2018 or 2019, Bryce Harper wanted to come to the White Sox, but he wanted a 6-figure deal, and Jerry said no.
I mean, if you're not coming off 3 digits, you're probably not going to get a big time player anymore.
No,
just because
no.
And you got guys making almost $1 billion out there.
Yeah, and Jerry refuses to pay people. And so that's been the biggest issue is like we went after Machado when he was a free agent. We went after Harper. We've gone after these big names, but we can't sign them because they don't want to take a poverty deal. And I say that term loosely, given the current political climate and everything like that, but like a poverty deal to play when they could, like Manny Machado, I think went to, that's when we were trying to get him. We're trying to sign him to a 5-year, I think like $85 or $90 million deal. And the Padres signed him to a 5-year, $120 million deal. Like, it's like, you can't even like be in the same ballpark. And like, that was a business move. And I don't blame him at all for turning the White Sox down. But the White Sox legitimately thought that they had a shot. And I was just like, no, you're not even close.
They're out of touch with reality is what it is. And
100%.
that's a clear indication that ownership is there's a problem there. But
right.
Let's talk you, Tom. Obviously, you know, a champion now in the Grid League.
Yeah.
You know, how does your fitness journey take you to Grid? Obviously, being a Highlands game and an ath pro and a strongman, how does that get to the point where you're like, oh, Grid?
So for those who don't know, I was a thrower in high school, college. Went to college, was a 3-time All-American in that. Got involved in the Highland games. It was just something to kind of do in my off season. Like, I played 1 year of college football, wasn't a huge fan. And I just liked lifting. And then while I was, finishing up college and like doing the Highland games and stuff like that, I got recruited by Glenn Penley to do the Olympic weightlifting. So 2012, I moved out to California. I was at Cal Strength training with them and stuff like that. And that's how I got introduced to CrossFit. So out there in California, like that like San Francisco, San Jose area, like that's like the birthplace of CrossFit. And it was like Walgreens out there. There was one on like every corner when you were driving around. And I had no idea what CrossFit was. So like, I just kind of started going to these gyms and just kind of asking about it, hanging out, talking to some of the guys at Cal Strength and everything like that. Found out that a lot of the guys at Cal Strength, like, they were actually teaching weightlifting classes at these CrossFits. And so that's how I got into, functional fitness and stuff like that. Was the team relocated. Well, we split up. Like, half the team stayed in California. The other half of the team came out to the Carolinas and Charlotte for Muscle Driver USA. And when we got here, like, I was coaching at like 4 or 5 different CrossFits, just coaching weightlifting classes. And, like, every once in a while they'd be like, hey, you want to try this Metcon? Like, this is easy stuff that you can do. I was also 330 pounds. So like, cardio was a no-go. And then after the 2015, I left Muscle Driver in, so backtrack a little bit further. In the middle of the 2015 competitive season, my wife and I at the time were buying a house, and this house was a 3-story house. It was a row house. So we were walking up to the top set of stairs, and I was like out of breath by the time I got to the top of the stairs. And I'm just like, yeah, this ship has run its course. I'm done with this. So I started immediately losing weight. Like I said, I was walking around at like 330, 340, because, mass moves mass, and I competed in the super heavyweights. So I got down to like 305, 315, and the people who ran the team got pissed about it. They were mad that like I was losing weight. And I'm like, listen, I was like, when it comes to the BMI, like, I don't even register on the BMI scale. Like, I'm off the charts. Like, that's not good. I was like, I do not want to die early. I was like, so this is a health thing. Like, if you don't like it, tough. So that exacerbated to me leaving the team after the 2015 competitive season and stuff like that. And so I just started training at the CrossFits I was coaching at. Like, I'd ask them like, hey, are you cool if I do this or that? And I also got hired on to help the Outlaw Way with their weightlifting. And so I was traveling to do their courses with them and teach the weightlifting portion of it while they're doing the CrossFit and stuff like that. And they had a lot, and Grid was just becoming a thing too at that time, the old NPGL. Yeah. And so like, a lot of people that were on that were part of the Outlaw Way, Marco Coppola, Nicole Ragau now, Lulu Trzynski, like, they were all part of the NPGL, had gotten drafted, and they were kind of talking to me about it and stuff like that. And so I just started, doing CrossFit. Started getting into the fitness stuff. I liked it. I liked just the variety of it. It's better than just doing snatches, cleans, jerks, squats, and presses all the time. There's just different things to do. And I kind of took to some of the skills like a pig in mud. So then in the Carolinas, they had a minor league, the Southern Amateur Grid League. And I got signed to a team there. The first year was an eye-opening experience. Like, I thought I'd just be able to muscle my way through everything. But like, grid speed is a whole other animal. Nick Shappy was actually on my minor league team with me. And so he was with me for the 3 years that we did it together. And then, I like, after that season was over, I was like, I am completely just changing everything. And so I retooled my diet, lost a bunch of weight and stuff like that, started focusing more on CrossFit, less on heavy lifting and things like that. I was able to teach myself how to do a muscle up. Handstand push-ups and handstand walking became super easy for me because I always had a strong press. And so it was just one of those things that just like slowly like snowballed into the following season. And the team that I was on, we were a stacked team, and I had probably my best season ever. I ended up getting drafted by the Rhinos.
Nice.
And so I got drafted by the Rhinos, didn't actually play in the season. I personally, I feel like I was drafted. So the DC Brawlers was the team I wanted to go to. Like I had seen them compete. When they did the Invitational in 2015 in Anaheim, I was on an Invitational team from Chicago, and we were the runners up. And we got to hang out with those guys and stuff like that, and talk to all of them. And like Justin Kotler and I just kind of chatted and had a good conversation and things like that. And the expectation was DC was going to draft me. And New York had the pick right before DC. New York drafted me, but they already had Andrew Rape, Nick Block, Wes Kitts, Easy Muhammad all on their team. So like I knew I wasn't going to play. And then I found out after the fact that, and this is how I ended up getting into the United Grid League, was Dan Jackson, who was the coach of the Wild. He was on he was on the coaching staff for the Miami Surge. And they tried trading for me after the draft because one of their barbell guys got hurt in training camp or something like that. And they tried trading for me and Marco Coppola, who was my friend with Outlaw, he was on the Surge, and he told me, he's like, we're trying to trade for you. And I didn't believe him or whatever. I was sitting at home in Chicago, just kind of, twiddling my thumbs, trying to figure out what to do next. And so, so Dan and them, they were trying to trade for me to the Miami team, but New York wanted too much in exchange. And so the trade never went through or whatever. And then Dan and I became friends, and we just kind of stayed in touch because the following season, the league folded, or that was the last season of it. The league folded after that. So Dan and I stayed in touch. And then the fall of 23, I was getting ready for Strongman Nationals, and Dan saw one of my videos of me doing yoke runs in his like search on Instagram. Like, how you can go like the explore page or whatever. He saw me doing yoke runs or whatever with like 800-900 pounds. And he just shot me a random message. He goes, hey, I had no idea you were still training. I have a crazy idea if you want to chat at some point. And I was like, let me get through this event and then we'll talk. So in like November, he and I talked, and it was one of those, he's like, we've got this team. We're in the Grid League. The Grid League is back. Like, this is what the league is about. He goes, I don't need you to do everything. He goes, I just need you essentially for like the odd objects and to fill in on barbell. And that was like, for me in the stage of my life that I'm in, that was perfect. Because I told him, I was like, I can't do all the stuff anymore. Like, I'm a little older. I'm a little more banged up. I was like, I will be a great support and bench role for you. I was like coming off the bench and just kind of filling gaps where needed. If people need a spell and stuff like that, I was like, but I can't be like a starter. Like I don't have that in me anymore, but I'd be more than happy to help support the team in any which way. I said, I also like, it's a little bit of unfinished business because, in the minor league that I was in, we were runner up twice. In that invitational I told you about with Chicago, we were runner up, never got to play in the league. I was like, I'd like to win. Like I at the end of the day, like, so if you think we've got a good chance at winning and I can help that, I said, I'm all in. And thankfully it worked out.
Yeah. It's crazy. You run through a great regular season. You end up capping it off obviously with a championship. But when you first stepped foot on the grid, was there any apprehension or was it like, oh shit, here we go? Or were you just like, well, I'm just going to do my best and whatever happens? Because I know for someone like me, if I haven't done anything in a while, even though I've done it before, there's a little bit, not apprehension, but it's like, all right, I gotta channel this again,
Yeah. So for me, that first tournament we did, or the first match we did down in Orlando, I believe, I did not sleep well that entire week because that was also a brand new match format. So we had a lot of those elements we had never done before. And so I just didn't know what to expect in terms of how the matches were going to go. The formats are a little different than they were in the MPGL and stuff like that. And I kind of wasn't going to be used a ton. I was going to be in the Echoes, the ladder, and I think that was it. And then we get there and like I just got excited because the things I was going to be doing, it was a push press ladder and then the tank essentially. And that tank thing, like I love that machine. Everybody hated it. I'm probably one of the few that love that thing, and I would love it if that was in every match. Like those kinds of like weird, odd object pain cave type things, that's my jam. And so as soon as that came out, I sent Dan video. I'm like, I can do this, both echoes, like I down and back. Like I have no problem with that. He's like, all right, you're the only one that wants to do it. Have fun. So so once we got there, like I was super pumped. I was like, this is going to be great. And then as we were getting ready to warm up, Blake, who was on our team, honestly, in my opinion, the strength specialist of the year. Blake Kidder. Like nobody was faster with a barbell in their hands, and no matter the weight on the bar than him this year. He tweaked something in his ab. He was trying to show somebody something on the pull-up bar, and he tweaked something in like his hip or his ab or something like that. And Griffin was out for that match already because he had hurt his hamstring in the CrossFit season. So Dan turned around and he goes, "Hey, you're now going to have to do all of this stuff." And like essentially I was in every match except for like the sprint relay. I might have been in the sprint relay because I had to do the tank push down, but like there was only like a handful of things I wasn't doing. So I went from just like having 2 things to worry about to like 8 or 9, and definitely was like an oh shit moment. Like, am I ready for this? Like, do I still got it? Match ended up going well. I ended up crushing the stuff that I was doing. And then from there I was like, still got it, baby. And it was full steam ahead from there for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's got to be a nice like feather in your cap to be able to go, all right, now like I know whatever they throw at me, I got this.
Yeah.
It's like riding a bike. You get back on it, you just quickly figure it out.
Yep.
When you look at the season prior to the season starting, obviously you guys, you talked to Dan and he was very, very adamant about you guys having a shot to win it all.
Mm-hmm.
But as you're going through the season, are you seeing like the championship kind of pedigree kind of form, or are you like, oh man, we're almost there, but we need to do 1 or 2 things?
So, I mean, I had conversations with Dan about this, and I actually said something to our team after our first team meeting. I felt like we were a great collection of individuals. Did not think we were a team at that point. I felt like everybody was just kind of worried about themselves and like how they were gonna, do during the season and stuff like that. Then like I saw how dominant we were in that first match, and I was like, okay, maybe this can work. And then we went into the second match against the Aces, and they absolutely kicked our ass. Like I don't know if we can swear, sorry about that.
No.
But they whipped us. They took us to the woodshed, and I remember like waning moments of the match standing there next to Dan, and I literally looked at him and I was like, Dan, you're going to find out real quick what kind of a team we have. I was like, and whether this thing can go. And to everybody's credit, I told Amanda this in person. I think I posted about it. Amanda became a leader after that match, because during the match she was super frustrated that like people weren't able to do things, like we weren't communicating well, we were shooting ourselves in the foot repeatedly, and she let the frustration get the best of her. And immediately after the match, and we had the team meeting, she stopped, she goes, I need everybody to know I am sorry for losing my cool. Like, I apologize. That was not me. And like, that was whatever. I will do better. And she did. And it was like in that moment, she became a leader. Everybody else was like, yeah, man, like, sorry. Like, we did not take this seriously. We did not, whatever. And that was kind of probably the best thing that happened to us. If we hadn't had that happen, I don't think we win. I really don't.
And here's the thing. Orlando is probably what you kind of strive to be in terms of a team, because
they're the defending champs.
Right. And they've done it. They've lived it. They know what it takes. They have good coaching. They have good ownership. Like, all of that stuff matters when it comes down to making and hitting potential, especially if you're looking to vie for a championship at the end of the season.
Right.
So, yeah, I think every team at some point looks back on the season and goes, this was the culminating moment. This is what got us over the hill or to the top of the mountain. But that's good that it happened in week 2. So you move through the rest of the season. You don't lose another match. Obviously, you're picking up.
We lost to the All-Star team.
Okay. Well, It is what it is. All right. We'll get to Vegas in a minute. Because I do have some thoughts on that.
Sure.
But yeah, you have that you're gonna have Griffin hopping in. You've got, Amanda Fisher, MVP of the league. Like, you have really good makings, and here you are getting ready. Everybody's geared up. You're going to Vegas. Obviously, it's not the Vegas that the league had, I think, pictured, but they did a good job of kind of scrambling and putting together and making the best of it. With that, and you talk about losing to the super team. Okay, but the reality is like, what was the mindset going into that match? Obviously, where you stood and the standings go. And did you know that match was going to be a big deal, or were you like, look, let's just do the best we can? It's not like we have to win, but like, what was the mindset going into that?
So I think the bigger thing that people need to understand is we were told how the points were going to work, and that how essentially, so we had an actual match. I believe we played the Breakers the first day, and then we were playing the super team because we were supposed to play the Brigade in that second match, and they didn't have enough people and stuff like that. So we knew that the Breakers match mattered for the point differential. The point differential, so I'm going to say right now, Dan deserved head coach of the year or coach of the year, whatever the award was, because he told us flat out at the beginning of the season, he's like, this is what it's going to take to win. And he talked about the point differential in matches, like just not letting up when we knew the match was over, because he's like, how like much of a differential is going to be huge for a tiebreaker for the playoffs. So like Dan had the rules, had them down pat. He had everything mapped out for us, like in like the ladders, for instance. He had a point for everybody in terms of how many points we were going to accumulate as a team. And I think one race he was off by 2 points. Every other race, like he hit it on the head. So like going into Vegas, he told us flat out, he's like, our focus is the Breakers match, because that counts towards the differential. The all-star match, or I say all-stars, but the super team match, like those points counted, but not as much. And then I'm glad that he did that, though, because eventually after the Vegas matches were over, they threw out the points for the teams that played the super team and ended up just having those last few matches. I think they did like a play-in match because you had the Aces, the Brigade, the Breakers, and somebody else. I'm drawing a blank on the fourth, the Palms, that were all like sitting there, all jumbled together points wise, because they didn't have those differentials. And so it was one of those situations where like our focus was by trying to beat the Breakers by as much as possible, and then just seeing how we stacked up against the super team. And like going into that was also that rate we were worried about. I wouldn't say worried, but that race format did not fit our forte. Like if you saw our team, like anything that involved a barbell, like nobody was touching us. Like we had the strongest team by far on the floor this year. And so if it involved the barbell, like we weren't losing, and there just wasn't a ton of barbell in that second match. So we were kind of nervous about it. Plus we were also down 2 of our better gymnasts. So like, it was just kind of like we were going into it, with a little bit of a hole in that game to begin with. And so we knew it was going to be rough sledding, but we just wanted to see where we stacked up against a team like a super team that was put together for that match.
Well, I mean, that's, shout out to Dan, because, him harping on point differential, especially when it matters. Like you're talking about when you can, there are some races where if you finish before a team and they don't finish at all in the time cap, or they don't finish, the ladder within, 20% of what you guys like, being able to crush those different events and not let teams get points. It's not about just winning, but really like putting your foot down. And I'll say it, like putting your foot on someone's throat and being like, no, we're done. Like that's when it matters. When you go into this point differential at the end of the season, you guys go into it, oh shit, we're number 2. Hey, guess what? We don't have to worry about this play-in into the regular season match, we can go in fresh and be ready
Yeah.
to kick ass, knowing we're going to get a team that's had to, do a match prior to. They're going to give everything they got because they know that they have to win it to get in. And, it's just a great scenario for you guys.
Yeah. And that was 100% our goal. Once we knew that like the top two teams were gonna get like buys, that was our focus, was just getting in the top two. We didn't care how we got into the top two. We didn't care if we were 1. We didn't care if we were 2. Our goal was just getting a bye to the next round.
So you guys, everybody meets, or, you guys and the Brigade, the Aces, the Palms, and the
Sharks,
the Lions,
Breakers.
the Lions.
Oh yeah.
Everybody meets in Fort Lauderdale for this, event over the weekend, where the first day you have 2 matches that are determining the last 2 seeds of the playoffs. The Brigade take on the
I think they played the Lions.
The Palms, and then
the
right. Aces took on the Lions.
Yeah, that's right.
So you guys the way it ends up working out, the Brigade end up losing, but their point differential was enough to get them in. They earned the 4 seed, so they get the Sharks, the number 1 seed in the playoffs. You guys get the Aces. So knowing that, you're getting a team that earlier in the season beat you, and you knew why they beat you, was everyone looking forward to this match, or was it like, shit, like,
no, see, and that was
beat us already?
And that was the thing that I love the most about our team, is our mentality the entire season was anybody, anytime, anywhere. We wanted the hardest path because we didn't want anybody to make excuses. Like if we ended up winning the whole thing, we wanted nobody to make excuses. Oh, well, they got this or they got that. Like we wanted the Aces again, and then we wanted the Sharks again. Like we might not have like verbally said it out loud, but like we wanted the toughest teams, and we wanted to prove that if we did win, like we beat the best of the best. And so like we were chomping at the bit as soon as we found out it was the Aces. And I think our match showed that. Like when we came out of the gates, both matches, but that Ace match in particular, like we wanted to prove that the loss earlier in the year was more us shooting ourselves in the foot versus them beating the brakes off of us. And that match against the Aces earlier in the year wasn't that much of a beatdown. Like it was a pretty close match. We just made a ton of mistakes throughout the course of it that cost us, 4 or 5 points. But yeah, like it was just one of those, like, it was just like and that was the thing I told Dan, is like, as soon as we got to the event or got to the arena or whatever, like the entire team was dialed in. Like you just saw it like throughout the match. Like we would go down after the match because everybody goes down and like congratulates or whatever. It wasn't super amped up like we had been in the past. Like we win a match, everybody come down like high five, and then it was like a switch flipped and everybody was focused and just walking back quietly. Like it was just we were locked in on that Aces match and the Sharks match.
You knew that business wasn't done yet.
Yeah,
I mean, essentially, you still had one more.
Yeah.
I would say you against the Aces, in particular, you guys basically dominated. I mean, they had one moment where there was triple under ringer where they threw a bonus flag.
Yeah.
They got close, and it was what they needed to do. But it's one of those things you go, all right, giving you guys a strength, like you may not have went into that going, well, the triple under ringer, that's not our forte, but everything else is. So like you'll concede that one regardless of how many points they get, because everything else is going to line up really well for you.
We were confident in our game plan for that one.
For sure. So then you go, all right, we get the Sharks. Did it matter? I mean, obviously it probably didn't matter who you took on, but was there a better matchup for you guys, the Sharks or the Brigade?
No, we really didn't care. Like Blake and I talked about it a little bit. Like he and I wanted the Sharks. Like just because they were undefeated, nobody had beat them. Nobody had really come close to beating them. I think in Vegas, their first match, they might have got a little bit of a challenge from whoever they played, but like they didn't, nobody really touched them all year long. So like I said, we wanted the hardest path. We did not want, and it's no knock on the brigade. We felt like the Sharks were the better team, the more well-rounded team. We felt like strength for strength, they matched us or we matched them like pretty well. So like, no, we wanted the Sharks.
Yeah. When you look at it, obviously, I mean, I think most competitors go, we want to take on who has proven that they are the best. And the Sharks had proven throughout the regular season that they were the best. So 100%. When you take them on, you go, all right, there's no flukes, there's nothing thrown in there. When we win, we know that we are the best because we took on everybody and we dominated. And I'll say domination because in that championship match, it was just from, partner forward on, you guys set a tone very quickly that this was different. Like it looked different. It felt different. And, I was talking to Amanda and I talked to Griffin and they go, when we got to quad 3 and quad 4 of that partner forward, we blasted them. We wanted to set the precedent. Hey, you're going to try your best and it's not going to be good enough today. And they did. And it showed from there on. So, going through that championship match, obviously you don't want to look forward to the end, but I'm sure you guys, as you're getting into it, you're seeing kind of the championship come to grips. I mean, you guys are getting closer and closer to touching it. But what, as a leader, you're a vocal leader on the team. What are you saying throughout the match to the athletes, as you guys get closer and closer? You still like, hey, let's focus. We got to finish this out.
I mean, that was the beautiful thing about it is like, I kind of said this every time I got interviewed, like in between the matches and stuff like that. Like we really didn't have team captains. We didn't have necessarily leaders. Everybody was on the same page. And so not much needed to be said. Like I said, like we were dialed in. Like that championship match, like there wasn't much that could have happened outside of like a catastrophic injury that could have like derailed our mentality. Like it was just like everybody was dialed in. I sound repetitive saying that, but it was just like we'd go down, we'd be like, hey, great job on that, partner forward, great job on the sprint relay, or the mirror or whatever it was. And then it was just back to work, down, waited for the next match, and then did rinse and repeat the entire match. So it was just one of those, like we didn't really have to say much. A few times we would bring everybody in and just be like, hey, like focus, just like that's done, it's over with, focus on the next thing. Like the Jack and Jill. We knew we weren't going to run Jack and Jill just because we had injuries that had popped up, and we had injuries that had happened in the week leading up to it, and it was just one of those we didn't want to risk another injury. So like we knew we were not gonna be able to complete that race and stuff like that. So we conceded that. But like Dan was just like, it's not gonna matter because I need you guys to do X, Y. He goes, if you do these things, it's not gonna matter. And we went like above and beyond because we thought that they might get us on a couple of different things, like their girls triad. Like I don't think they lost the match all year. We thought we would possibly lose the triad and they would throw a bonus flag on that event. And it was just one of those situations where like we couldn't have scripted it better, but we also weren't surprised because of just how dialed in and the intensity of it. Like that, like I'm getting chills talking about it. Like the intensity on our side was like very palpable both days, but in particular that championship match. And it wasn't until the men won the triad that you could like physically feel the release from everybody. Because like once the men clinched that triad, and our men's triad was very tough to beat all season long, and we knew that the guys that went out, I wasn't there, I stood there and I was a cheerleader, but the guys that went out there, they went into the triad with the mentality of like, we clinch it if we win this, and they did, and it was awesome. And like I said, it was after that, like we're like, we just got to get through the sprint relay and we're done. But like we knew, like that was kind of when the release happened, was after the men crossed the finish line first on that triad.
There's nothing better than when hey, all we have to do is take care of business here. If we take care of business here, it's done. Then whatever happens, and it's not going to change the outlook or outcome of this match. So. That's got to be a great feeling. It's almost like a boxing match. You don't have to win. You're going to lose a couple rounds, but you don't want to give up too much in those rounds. You obviously you want to hold true. You don't want to get knocked out. But like in a 12-round boxing match, you don't have to win every single round. You just got to win the majority of them, and that's what you guys did. You went out there, you fought hard, you won the majority of the matches, if not all of them, and you got.
I think the only one we lost was Jack and Jill.
Yep. And you get to the triad, and boom, you knock that out, and you guys are guaranteed a championship. So you win a championship. Obviously, Tom, that means there's do things change when you're a champion?
I mean, I think the only thing that changed is like going into next year, the team has a target on their back. Like I feel like it's the same thing that it's the same mentality we had towards the Aces this year. Like they were the measuring stick. So like everybody is going to want to see how they stack up against the Wild next year.
Absolutely. So for you, 2025, are you back with the Wild? Are you resigning? What's the deal? What are we doing?
I am undecided right now.
Okay.
I being full transparency, the season took a lot out of me. Yeah. Both like from like a financial standpoint and a physical standpoint. Like I had a couple of injuries that I started dealing with at the beginning of the season, and they just never got better throughout the season. So like by Fort Lauderdale, I was limping along. Also financially, like if you don't live in the state of Florida, the season is very hard on you financially. And so I've got to kind of evaluate that stuff. And I'm still talking to the Wild. Like I'm still, I still tag them and stuff. I still talk to our owners, John and Mia. I still talk to the guys and stuff like that. I've talked to some of the new signees that they have and everything like that. And so like I said, I'm undecided. I would like to compete because it's the most fun I've ever had in a team sport and stuff like that. But I've also got a lot of stuff going on outside of grid that does require a lot of my time and energy and stuff like that. So I've just got to make sure it's a good fit for me. And at the end of the day, I don't want to take away from the team. Like I told John and Mia this, I had a conversation with them and Dan like about a month ago. And I said, I was like, if there is a roster spot, like I'm definitely interested, but like, if you've got somebody that you can sign that is going to better help the team in a more well-rounded, because the other thing too is like, and this isn't a knock on the league. I understand where the league is and what they're trying to do. The league is not heavy enough for somebody like me. Like I can only move 185 pounds so fast, whereas somebody who's a little bit smaller, a little bit fitter, they're going to move that barbell way faster than I can. Yes, I can do things to work on it, and I do those things, but it's just my physical like skill set is only going to be able to be capped out at so much. So like I have told them, like if they've got somebody that could fill a roster spot better than me in terms of being able to do more for the team, because in all seriousness, I don't think anybody's touching me on any of the strongman stuff. Like that D ball, I think I proved that in the D ball over the yoke, the tank push. Really bummed I never got a chance to do the farmers of the sled or the yoke run and stuff like that, but I can crush that stuff too. Any odd objects, I would love for them to start including things like sandbags, like maybe as a ladder or something like that in the ladder match. But that's my skill set, but that's a very like specific skill set. So if there is somebody that they can sign that is going to be able to better fit the team overall in all the different areas, the gymnastics, the body weight, and the barbell, I told them, I was like, my feelings will not be hurt. At the end of the day, I want what's best for the team. And if that's not me, then so be it.
I mean, that's a very like astute like way to look at it, because I mean, not every athlete puts the team first, and a team and for all intents and purposes, it's a team that you aren't committed to playing with yet. So like it's you have no obligation right now to put the team first. You could always put you first, but you are putting the team first. I will ask this, whether you're on the team or not, what do you think the Wild has to do to repeat in 2025?
In all seriousness, I think I think the roster that they're assembling right now is good enough to repeat. I really do. Obviously everybody's going to get better. Everybody's going to reload and add other people to their teams and stuff like that. Like my buddy Josh Newell, who's on the Breakers, like watching what he's doing right now in training is amazing. He, in my opinion, he's going to be a strong candidate for strength specialist of the year, unless he's got to do everything for the Breakers. I don't know who else they have on their roster and stuff like that, but I'm excited about Kawika Henderson. He's somebody that, like, back in the old MPGL days, he and I were buddies and stuff like that. We've remained friends and stuff. It would be awesome to be on the floor with Kawika again. I think he is a really good addition to the team on the men's side. Like, our men's group last year, we joked around and we called it like a beef package, like the Orlando Aces, like our starting 5 guys. There was not a group that could come even close to us with our size. You had Griffin, who's about 240. Blake was about 230, I think 220, something like that. David McKellar, who was like 240, 250. Matt Cable, which I don't know how this is possible, but he says he weighs 265, 275. That dude is pushing maximum density. And then I was 305. Like, we were a big group of dudes that can move. And so it was just cool to be with those guys all the time. And then you threw in, Pat Long and stuff like that, who is another like phenomenal athlete in his own right. He's like, 240, 250, something like that. So, like, I feel like Kawika is a good addition to that, but we got smart after last year, and we've added some on the, what I call like, just like that middle size, like those guys in like that 180 to 200 range that can do a bunch of different things, but are still strong, more RJ and Billington type folks, like Tyler Billington. So I think they have enough to repeat. It's just gonna be, and it kind of sucks because this happened. Like, this was with us last year. Like, essentially, we went into the season with a brand new team. Like, a majority of the team really hadn't played together. Like, Blake was a new addition, Sydney was a new addition, I was a new addition, Vilma, she was a new addition. We had a lot of people that weren't on the team the prior season, so we had to kind of gel real quick. So it's all going to matter about how fast this new group of guys and girls can gel together. But we do have a good core, like between the Billingtons, between Vilma, between Sydney, Matt. Like, we've got a good core of people from last year's group. David as well. Like, we've got a good core group of people that are some of the best athletes at what they do, that I think they'll be able to steer that ship in the right direction and get the new people on board quicker than normal.
Yeah, it's I talked to Matt Hornaday of the Breakers, and he said, one of the toughest things is when you have a bunch of new players. And I think the Breakers, that was what they fell into last year, is they had a bunch of new players, and it was like, all right, there's a learning curve to this sport. And even if you're a player who played it and came back, or even if you're a player who played it the previous year and you're back again this next season, like, the race formats can change and things can change and people change. That's the biggest thing, is you're communicating with a new group of athletes and a new set. And like, it requires like some communication, it requires some practice, it requires a lot of different things that, factor into that. But it'll be interesting. I think this is going to be a very telling year for the league. Obviously expanding, outside of the state of Florida and Georgia to Houston. And now Daytona is now moved over to Vegas. So you're moving further out west. And this is the last thing I'll ask you. In regards to the expansion, do you think the league is moving in a positive direction with that, or are they staying neutral, or like what's the thought as far as the league as a whole?
I mean, I feel like the league has good bones. I really do. I feel like they've got a good like foundation in place and stuff like that. There are some things on like the back end that are going to need to be improved in order for the sustainability. I feel like from a personal standpoint, they need to make a separation from all the other functional fitness modalities. They need to establish themselves as it's great that we support other, organizations and other, competitions and stuff like that, but we need to take care of our own first. And they need to establish themselves as their own singular identity in order for us to because you have people doing things on the grid that you are not going to see anywhere else. Like, you tell me where else you're going to find somebody moving a 300-pound barbell as fast as we do in the ladders. Like Blake, I talked about Blake earlier. Blake went.
Where are you going to see people muscle snatching 275?
Well, exactly. Muscle snatch and 275, or like the gymnastics, like the triple touches and stuff, like doing
yeah,
back to back like triple touches and stuff, and like getting like and not just doing these movements, but the speed. Like Blake in particular, I don't think there is a single ladder that he didn't get through under like 20-25 seconds. Like that is an insane amount of weight to be moved in that time frame with those movements. Like he cleared that push press ladder, I believe, in like 22 seconds. That's unreal. And like, you're not going to see that anywhere else. You have Carrie Billington doing the triple touches and stuff like that. I think it was like 5 triple touches, and she did it in like 15-20 seconds. Like, that's just like, that's insane athleticism that you're not going to see. Eric from the Lions, or the Lions, doing like the backward rolls to supports, or like off the bar or whatever. Like he can string together 4 or 5 of those in like 10 seconds. Like, it's just, you're not going to see this stuff anywhere else, and we need to lean into that as our identity and push that out there. They do a great job on social media in terms of like highlighting the different things and stuff like that, the different stories and things. I feel like as we start to expand, it's just leaning more into our own identity and betting on ourselves, and not having to rely on CrossFit or any of these other functional fitness things to build ourselves. Like, we need to build off of what we've already laid down and just continue to essentially pat ourselves on the back and be our own hype men.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think distinguishing yourself from any other sport, because if you watch it, you see there are some similarities, but like there are a lot of differences in what happens on the grid and what happens in other functional fitness sports. And I think it's just a combination of the type of athlete that you get and the things that they're capable of doing that doesn't necessarily translate into, other things. But, it's awesome. I think this will, like I said, I think this will be a telling year for the league. I think the expansion is a good thing. Obviously, you want to, you want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Quality is always better than quantity. But
Agreed.
At some point, you got to show like the growth moving forward. You don't want it to become stagnant and stale. But Tom, man, I really appreciate you taking some time today and joining us.
Absolutely.
Obviously, getting a chance to talk to you, getting your story. That was awesome.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime. Anything you want to plug or promote before you bounce?
Just my personal business, The Strength Agenda. I primarily work with Highland Games, strongman, weightlifting, powerlifting, general strength and conditioning, stuff like that. Go to thestrengthagenda.com. On Instagram, at The Strength Agenda. My Instagram handle is at Strength Coach Sroka. I like talking shop. I like talking about all sorts of different things involving the barbell and strength and fitness and things like that. I'm always answering questions and stuff. So if anybody has any questions, anything they want to chat with me about, like, please do not hesitate. And I'm looking, regardless of whether I'm playing or not, I'm looking forward to supporting the Grid League, for years to come and stuff. I'm constantly recruiting people towards the season and stuff from the gyms that I coach at, if I think they'd be good at it. And it's just one of those, like, I want to see it succeed for the athletes. I want to see it succeed for all of those like you who are, investing this great podcast in terms of getting the stories out there. So I appreciate you doing that and just getting more eyes on the league and stuff. So anything that I can do to help push that along, like, I'm going to be all for.
Absolutely. Well, selfishly, I would love to see you back out on the grid because you do some things that mesmerize me. Like, I love when strong dudes go out there and lift heavy shit like that.
My highlight of the season was people realizing I can run, because nobody had seen me sprint. And like when we would do like our practices, I was like doing the lineman shuffle. I was not. Nobody knew I had a gear, and so that one ringer I did against the Aces, when I like high stepped it into the end, I said end zone. When I high stepped it across the finish line, like that's all everybody was. I got a ton of text messages like, I had no idea you could sprint. I had no idea you could run. I was like, well, there you go. Like, there you go. Now y'all got physical proof of me running. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon unless I'm back on the grid. But yeah, like the league, it's a ton of fun. It's the best team sport I've ever been a part of. I don't regret a single minute of doing it. I love my team. I love the Wild, and I appreciate Dan giving me another opportunity to do grid this year.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, it's been a pleasure, man. Enjoy the rest of your day and whatever.
Likewise.
Whatever 2025 throws at you, man. I know you got it, and if we see you out there, we see you. If not, then I'll be in touch with you. I like what you do. I love the jokes, man. Just
Yes,
so you
absolutely.
know, I love your jokes. Keep those coming.
Thank you.
All right. That's Tom Sroka, everybody. If you like hearing Tom's story or you just like hearing Average Joe's talk X's and O's, please like, share the podcast on Facebook. Head over to YouTube. Do 3 things. Click like, click subscribe, click notifications. That way you're one of the first to get new content when it's uploaded. We've categorized it. We've got college gymnastics, college baseball, college volleyball. We've got a couple tennis. We got golf. We got grid league. We got pros and Joes. You name it. We're talking sports all day, every day. We got content constantly being thrown in there. So check it out. Well, we will be back here on the Grid and Grind show tomorrow. We're going to be talking to Alyssa Martinez and JoJo Gomez. I know everybody's looking forward to that episode because they decided they wanted to switch it up. They needed to change. They're going from the Daytona Venom over to the Palm Beach Breakers. So we're going to get the reason for the change. We're going to talk to them about their training, what they're doing to prepare for the upcoming 2025 season. So be on the lookout for that. And then on Thursday, we've got Southwest Florida Shark Breezy Lanes joining us. She's going to tell us about all things Southwest Florida Sharks and what they got going on over there in the Fico Gomez camp for 2025. So stick around, stay with us, and we'll be bringing more content to you. And as always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We're out.